Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to another video. As requested by you guys, I'm going to be releasing an up-to-date 8.3 Affliction Warlock PvP guide. Now, there's a lot to cover in today's episode, so I do hope you enjoy that. I'm going to be talking about corruptions, PvP talents, races, talents in general, and just so much more. So fingers crossed you actually like this video, and you know, this will be targeted towards new players who are trying to learn Affliction, and experienced players who want to gain more info in Arena and Battlegrounds specifically. Probably won't mention World PvP if I'm completely honest, but this will be a PvP guide nonetheless. And guys, I just want to say I'm also going to be doing a Demonology PvP guide and a Destruction Warlock PvP guide. And fingers crossed you enjoy it. We're going to hop straight into it, and let's get into the guide. Now, jumping straight into it guys, I'm going to be talking to you about my talent choices and the reason to why I play these talents in general. So I do hope you somewhat agree with me on my decisions, and let me know in the comments if you like a different build than what I play, because it actually helps me out a ton and I can give you a more up-to-date guide and just tell you why I prefer these talents. Now, I get a load of comments in the comment section basically saying, Xrathis, why do you play Deathbolt over Drain Soul or Nightfall? Now, the reason why I like Deathbolt is if you've ever played an Affliction Warlock, you'll know that we don't really have anything to actually finish the enemy off. We have sustainable dot damage, and when it doesn't get dispelled, obviously, but overall, we just don't have that big closing ability that finishes the game. And that's why, most Affliction Warlock games would go to dampening, and with this meta at the moment, most games go to dampening, so it's that much harder for Affliction Warlock or a dot class in general right now. So the reason why I play Deathbolt is because usually I would play Reaping Flames Major Essence. If you don't know what Reaping Flames does, it basically deals fire damage to an enemy, and the lower health they are, the more chance it has to critical strike, therefore dealing a lot more damage. So usually if you play Reaping Flames, it's going to hit for say 100k, and if you play Deathbolt, although it's a little bit unreliable at times, Deathbolt's going to hit around 80k to 100k. So just with these two spells alone, you're looking at a solid 180k burst. So 180k within two spells. So that's why I use it. I feel that Affliction lacks kill potential right now. So having Reaping Flames is really nice, because if they're low health, the more chance the cooldown's going to be reducted. Have the reduction, because that's how Reaping Flames work. If the target's like below 15% health or whatever it is, then 20% health, then the cooldown will be reduced by 30 seconds. So it's actually really, really nice. And then Deathbolt can be used as a closer to try and kill the enemy a lot faster. That's why I use it. However, Drain Soul and Nightfall are actually two solid choices as well for the level 15 talents. Don't get me wrong, I actually can see a world where these would exist, because if you play Shadow Embrace, if you don't know what Shadow Embrace does, then basically every time you Shadow Bolt, every time the Shadow Bolt hits the enemy, if you're playing without Drain Soul, if you play Drain Soul, then it replaces Shadow Bolt, so it'd be a little bit different. But every time your Shadow Bolt or Drain Soul deals damage to the target, you get a 3% shadow damage increase, and this stacks up to 3 times. Sorry, it stacks up to 9 stacks. So you get a 9% increase in your damage. So that's a raw, 9% shadow damage increase, which is solid. And obviously Deathbolt doesn't allow you to do that. So the reason why, though, I don't think Deathbolt is bad is because Drain Soul right now, the enemy can interrupt you on it. So every time you try and get your damage out with your Drain Soul, the enemy can just close it down, and then you're going to lose that 9% increase if you don't maintain it. So you have to keep maintaining your Drain Life stacks or your Shadow Bolt stacks, so you can have that 9% increase in damage. So that's why I like Deathbolt a little bit better. It's on a 30-second cooldown, and more likely than not, you're going to get a lot of damage with it out. So it's actually solid. Now, level 30 talents. All three of these are very good choices right now. You've got Wrath and Agony, Absolute Corruption, and Siphon Life. Wrath and Agony I used to use at the start of BFA with the Sudden Onset Azerite Trait. If you don't know what Sudden Onset does, basically it allows your Agony to start at 4 stacks instead of 1, and then it does like 10k additional damage or something like that, depending on your Azerite gear. Now, Wrath and Agony, what this does, instead of your Agony stacking up to 10 times, it will stack up to 15. Now, the reason why I don't think Agony's as strong anymore, this Wrath and Agony talent, is because your dots can be dispelled. So if you're trying to go for heavy burst on the enemy, try and rot them down, right, it's just going to be negated by the enemy healer because they will just dispel your go and then you'll be left with no damage left. So the reason why I think it's bad is because they can just close it down significantly. Whereas if you play Absolute Corruption, for example, which I like, Corruption usually it's on a 14-second duration in PvP, but if you play Absolute Corruption, it gives you 15% increased damage from your Corruption, and it also lasts for 24 seconds. So it gains an additional 10-second duration in PvP, and it deals more damage. I feel like the pressure from Corruption is a little bit better than Wrath and Agony at the moment, because, you know, Wrath and Agony can be dispelled, whereas Corruption, it does a lot more damage and stays on the target. So I feel like that's a little bit better with how, you know, comparing the two. With Siphon Life, however, I actually see situations where this is actually really important to play. If you're trying to survive deep dampening games in 3v3 arena or 2v2 arena, then Siphon Life's your definitely, you know, your big go-to. If you think you're going to die, Siphon Life's going to help you out there, and it works very nicely when paired up with Phantom Singularity. So basically, Siphon Life, what it does, you can put this on any target you want, multiple targets. So for example, if a hunter comes into the arena and he has his pets out, you can put Siphon Life on his pets and the hunter himself, and also the enemy healer or the enemy DPS, depending on what you're facing. So it's really nice. The more targets, the more value you're going to get out of Siphon Life, and the more healing you're going to get back from it. It does so it heals you for 30% of the dots damage. So it's actually really solid. So the more people you have the more people you have with Siphon Life on, the more damage you're going to deal. So it's really, really nice. But I do prefer Absolute Corruption here usually, but there will be some specific scenarios I will use Siphon Life. Level 45 talents, guys, you got Demon Skin, Burning Rush, and Dark Pact. Always pick Demon Skin, no point talking about the others. Level 60, you got Phantom Singularity and Vile Taint. These two are actually very, very good right now. I usually use Phantom Singularity because it works very nicely with Siphon Life. Although you can't spread it onto multiple people, you can actually put it on one target and get a significant amount of healing if you have more dots out. So the more dots you have out at one time, the more it's going to heal you for. So it's actually really good. It's on a 45-second cooldown, which is kind of a drawback. But yet again, you can still get that healing. And it also works nice with Mortal Coil as well, just because it's an extra survivability mechanism for you to cope in arena. Now, Vile Taint, I've had a load of comments saying Xrathis is actually a really good talent. And I actually agree with the people. This is good, but the only drawback it has is that it's on a 1.1 second cast and a 20-second cooldown. So although it's half of Phantom Singularity, it doesn't heal you. Plus, it's on a 1.1 second cast, so it can be interrupted. Now, specific scenarios, if you're in Battlegrounds, for example, or you're in Arena, Vile Taint can actually be good when you're queuing up against Cleaves. So if you're against like a Windwalker Monk or an Unholy DK, or a Arms Warrior, Windwalker Monk, or Frost Death Knight, just whatever melee you're against, Vile Taint could actually work, because not only can you bait the enemy kick on Vile Taint, and because I am playing the Inevitable Demise build, what this does is every time your Agony deals damage, it empowers your Drain Life, dealing more damage, which stacks up to 50 times. Now, if I can get the enemy to waste their kick on Vile Taint, that's going to allow me to use my Drain Life whenever I want, because they don't have their interrupt up. So it's actually good. Although they can stun me, as long as I'm on DR, I can actually use my Drain Life freely, which is absolutely awesome. Now, the slow will obviously help you and will let you survive for a little bit longer in arena, but I just think that overall, Phantom Singularity is your go-to, just so you can get your healing out, and as an Affliction Warlock, you don't really end games that quickly, so just being able to survive in deep dampening might be a little bit better with Phantom Singularity. Now, level 75 talents, straightforward here. Play Mortal Coil if you think you need the healing. Usually you would play Mortal Coil because with this burst meta you can get 100 and 0 within one stun, so Mortal Coil is definitely your go-to. However, if you're in Arena, for example, and you're trying to, you're on a certain map, for example, you're on the Zoldazar map, can't remember what it's called, or you're on the Mecha Drone map, the Mecha Gun one, I can't remember if that's what you call it. You can put your portal in specific places, so you can line of sight the enemy, and it's actually really helpful. And there's other maps too, which I'll put on screen and everything, which are actually really useful for Demonic Circle, but I like using this when I want to get away. If I want to try and line the enemy and, like, for example, jump off the map, teleport back up, that's going to give me like 10-second window where they can't catch me. I'll be free from damage and I can't take any more damage. So it's actually really nice. There's some scenarios, if you are playing Reflect and you don't have Reflect anymore, but you have Demonic Circle up, what you can do is if you're against like a Fire Mage or Destro Lock, you can just teleport their Greater Pyroblast or their Kitus Bolt and it won't hit you, and it just be glorious when you can actually, you know, not get hit by that and just run away from that burst. So allows you to survive a little bit longer, but it's whether you want the healing or the line of sight capability. And obviously, as you know, Warlocks don't really have that much mobility, so both of these just help you out a ton. Mortal Coil is good for setting up CC. Demonic Circle can be used for that as well if you put it on top of the enemy healer, but yeah, again, it's mainly used for like surviving. Level 90 talents, you've got Haunt and Grimoire of Sack. Now, usually on a single target person, I would use Haunt because it gives you a 10% increase in your damage. Therefore, your dots are going to tick more damage, tick for more even, and you're just going to do more damage to that target. So it's really, really nice. However, I feel like at the moment, Grimoire of Sacrifice is just so much stronger with how this meta is. You know, you want to be trying to rot the enemy down a lot faster than, you know, they can rot you down. Just feel like Grimoire of Sacrifice allows you to do that. If you don't know what this does, basically your damage you have on the target has a chance to deal like 6.8k additional shadow damage. So every dot you have on the target, and it keeps ticking and ticking and ticking and ticking, the more haste you have, obviously, the better you get, you know, the more value you get from Grimoire of Sacrifice. I think it works nicely with Dark Soul Misery as well, because Dark Soul Misery obviously gives you 30% haste, and haste is your main stat, so you want to be focusing that, and the two just work in synergy with each other when you're bursting, so it's really nice. And the only problem is, if you play Grimoire of Sacrifice, you don't have a pet anymore. You do have your pet's interrupt if you play Foul Hunter, for example, but you just lose the capability of being able to devour magic a target. What I mean by this, if you don't know what devour magic does, it's basically like a shaman's purge. So it allows your pet to purge a beneficial magic effect from that target and take it away from them. So for example, if a paladin is in arena and they freedom themselves, you can send your pet on them, devour magic, and it has a chance to purge that purge the freedom from the target, taking it away from them, and therefore allowing you to set up your burst potential and CC because the paladin no longer has freedom. So you can't get out of your roots or anything, which is very, very nice. So it just allows you to be able to kick certain abilities while not being in line of sight, and it also just allows you to purge you know, beneficial magic effects on the target. So for example, let me put this into test. So say this guy over here, this woman, she's the healer, right? And say I'm playing Haunt right now. I'm not playing Grimoire of Sacrifice, so I have the ability to have my pet out. So I have Devour Magic and the ability to kick a certain spell if the enemy casts. So at the moment, nobody can interrupt her because, you know, we're not in line of sight. However, if you send your pet over, since your pet's in line of sight, your pet can absolutely, you know, kick the target without you being in line of sight. So for example, I could run all the way over here, and I can still use my interrupt, and my pet will be able to interrupt that target without me being close. However, if you play Grimoire of Sacrifice, for example, you sacrifice your pet, and now I won't be able to kick the target unless I'm in line of sight. So I have to run to that target and kick them. So that's the only drawback with Grimoire of Sacrifice. You get solid damage, however you lose the ability to purge the enemy, and you also lose the ability to be able to CC them when you're not in line of sight. So it all depends on what you want to go. Both of these are solid choices, but usually you would play Grimoire of Sacrifice. Now, 100 talents, Soul Conduit's not really good, but I always pick Dark Soul Misery here just because with the burst meta, like I was explaining earlier, just having the 30% increase in your haste is just so good. Like right now, if I pop everything, you know, I pop this, I'm at 83% haste out of combat. That is incredible. Haste is your main stat, and I'm at 83%, so it's really nice. That's every time I burst a swell. And don't forget, if I use trinkets like this, the Titan Shard, which gives me haste, I'm going to be getting more than that. And if I use haste amps, that's actually going to increase the amount of haste I gain from all sources, so it's just so good right now. Creeping Death, there's situations where you actually want to be running this potentially with Grimoire of Sacrifice, just if you want to kill the enemy a lot quicker. But I don't know, I just feel like since your dots can be dispelled, it's literally just better to play Misery for the haste, because if you use Creep and Death, set up your burst, then the enemy's just going to dispel it anyway, so you're not going to get value from it. So I don't know, I just feel like Misery is just a little bit better. Now guys, moving on to PvP talents. Now, since I'm a gnome, I always go with Gladiator's Medallion, just because it's a trinket and I can get out of certain stuns and just allows me to control the game a little bit better. If you're a human or something, you can go Relentless because you have every man for himself racial, so it just allows you to have that much better control when you're in the arena if you're a human, so human warlocks are actually quite decent. Now, there's a couple honourable mentions when it comes to PvP talents, but there's some solid choices you should always be running. For example, if you go against melee teams, Curse of Weakness is probably one of your go-to spells, because it reduces the attack power from the enemy for 30% for 10 seconds, and it's on 20-second cooldown. So you can use this quite often, and it just negates people's burst. I say negates, it's probably the wrong word. It just allows them not to do as much damage to you over a certain period of time, so it's actually quite nice. I like running this when I'm against just melee people, just so I can survive for a little bit longer and try and, you know, get my goes set up and everything like that. I can pull it on the target. If they try and burst me down, they're not going to do as much damage. Now, if I'm against casters, Nether Ward is a 100% must in my opinion, because what it allows you to do is reflect the incoming damage spell that is coming to you. So for example, if a warlock's using Care Spell or a mage is using Greater Pyroblast, you want to use Nether Ward at the last possible second when the spell is going to hit you. So for example, when the spell's just about to be finished casting, pop Nether Ward, so it will have a 100% guarantee to reflect that spell. Because what mages and everybody can do, they can actually purge this away from you and get rid of it. So it's actually bad just to pop it when the spell is like just started casting. You want to wait as soon as the cast is about to go off and then pop your Nether Ward, because that's going to allow you to get the most benefit out of it, and the mage can't steal it from you then. Or they can steal it, but they're not going to get any value from it. So that's why I like Nether Ward. It just allows you to reflect the heavy damage back at the target and just put some pressure out. Demon Armor, it's a hit and miss, right? And there's loads of people basically saying that Demon Armor is good, but you don't need it all the time. And I actually agree with them. So at the moment, I'm at 568k health. Pop Demon Armor, 597k health. That is insane. And don't forget, Mortal Coil, as I was mentioning earlier, that heals you for 20% of your maximum health. 20% of 597k. That is insane. And you play Siphon Life 2, man, I'm telling you, some solid healing, but that's the build I was mentioning earlier. Now, Demon Armor is good. Like I said, it increases your armor by 90% and also increases your maximum health by 5%. It obviously got a nerf ages ago, but I still think it's very beneficial, especially in threes when you're trying to survive a little bit longer. Against melee teams, 100% use Demon Armor. I just think it's a must, just so you can survive for a lot longer, and you definitely need that as an Affliction Warlock. Now, if you're going to Double Caster, for example, you could probably get away without playing Demon Armor, because you don't really need the armor increase as much, or the maximum health. However, I can see situations where you would want to play it. You know, you're playing against like Destro Fire Mage, and there might be some better talents to choose, but you might just want that extra survivability. That 5% maximum health could actually be the decider in the game, so you might want to use it, but there are situations where you might not want to use it, right? So say if you went into like an Elemental Shaman and a Destro, or an Elemental Shaman and a Shadow Priest, you might say, you know what, I think I can survive this damage, let's take off Demon Armor and replace it with Fragility or something. So it's quite decent. Now, Endless Affliction's actually okay. It's not my go-to spell, but every time your your Unstable Affliction is dispelled by the enemy, or every time it runs out, basically an Endless Affliction applies to that target. So it's not like your Unstable Affliction runs out completely. I think Blizzard added this in the game purely for the fact that, you know, when you spam 5 Unstable Afflictions and the enemy gets rid of it with the, dispel, then it just allows you to have at least another one on the target, so you don't feel as bad, right? But I actually think it's not too bad. Could be good. Increases your damage start by 10%, like Unstable Affliction does, and I just think it's a solid choice. You get this if you play Conflict Strife Major anyway, so sometimes it might just be better to have it baseline than anything. If you play curses though, I would recommend only playing one, because obviously they share the same cooldown. So if share the same GCD. So if I play fragility, for example, and I want to weakness at the same time, I can't do that. So just make sure you only play one of these at a time, because you definitely can get caught up in arena when choosing. Gateway Mastery is an honourable mention, because usually you wouldn't play this, but like I said, if you play Conflict and Strife Major, you get Endless Affliction for free, and that basically clears up another slot for you to use if you're going against casters, for example, because you won't want weakness. So you might want to play something like Gateway Mastery so you can get away from the enemy a lot quicker. I wouldn't recommend Soul Shatter. I've tried this before, but it gets rid of your dots. Now I thought it'd be beneficial for the 10% increase in haste, but I wouldn't go for it, because it removes all your dots and all the targets and everything, and you don't want to be doing your dots again. Now, like I mentioned, I play the Inevitable Demise build, so I want to be using Drain Life as less as possible until I hit 50 stacks. So Rotten Decay is not good for my build at all. However, if you're playing the Onset build or Cascading Calamity, then Rotten Decay is probably your go-to, because you're using Drain Life a lot more than I am. So Rotten Decay is a solid choice. It's probably one of the top PvP talents. I used to use this all the time, but because I'm going a little bit of a different build now, I don't really play it anymore, because you want to be using Drain Life as less as possible, like I mentioned earlier. Essence Drain, obviously, for the survivability is okay, but if I just break it down, the main ones you want to be using is Weakness for against melee teams, Nether Ward to reflect spells, like Clone for example, Demon Armor, Endless Affliction, probably Fragility, and then an honourable mention would be Gateway Mastery. Curse of Shadows, tried this before. There's some situations where you could get away with it, but overall I wouldn't really recommend it. Alright guys, so I'm going to jump straight into it and talk about my essences right now. So at the moment, you can see that I'm running ×3 Inevitable Demise and ×3 Racking Brilliance. Now this is the build I'm going right now. Don't forget, Racking Brilliance and Inevitable Demise received some nerfs in PvP. It's not that big of a nerf, but as I'm aware, Inevitable Demise, the healing that you got from it actually was reduced by a significant amount, because it was just healing the person for way too much, and that's why it was nerfed in PvP. Racking Brilliance is basically nerfed by half in PvP, I think. So instead of getting a 1600 increase by your intellect, you actually get half of that. So it's up to you whether you want this. I still think it's decent. I don't think it's bad at all. So I still would run it in PvP, just because it increases your intellect by quite a bit. And you know, if you have 3 of them, you're going to get like 2500 intellect. And in PvE you would get 5k. So it all depends what you want to go, but I just think at the moment the ideal build would be ×3 Inevitable Demise and ×3 Racking Brilliance, with your secondary traits being Overwhelming Power and Resounding Protection or Impassive Visage. I think that's good. Or if you don't have Overwhelming Power, I also suggest going Gut Ripper, just because it allows you to rot people down a lot more. Now there's other builds which you can try, like I mentioned earlier. I think a solid build would be ×3 Racking Brilliance and ×3 Cascading Calamity, just so you can get more haste out and get more procs from your Racking Brilliance. I think that could be good. Or maybe if you want to go ×3 Inevitable Demise and ×3 Cascading Calamity, just so you can get your Drain Life off quicker. So there's no really set traits you want to be running as an Affliction Warlock, in my opinion. I just feel like it's all experimentation, experimental at the end of the day, because you know, nobody's really made guides on Affliction Warlocks and nobody's really commented about it. Like Unset used to be popular, that build of Cascading Calamity, Inevitable Demise, like I'm playing, used to be popular. It's all what you want to be going, but I think the best one at the moment is ×3 Inevitable Demise and ×3 Racking Brilliance, because every time you burst, you're going to be doing a lot of damage, and your Drain Life's just going to laser people down. And I feel like that's better. But if you don't want to play that, I'd recommend going Cascading Calamity build, probably with Inevitable Demise or Onset. Onset might work a little bit better if you pair it with Wrath and Agony. So I definitely try that. Now talking about my essences, guys, I'm going to jump straight into it. So basically, in regards to essences, there's a couple ones you want to be using. You will switch these out most games, so there's not a set one you want to be running for every game. There's some set ones you want to be going into specific compositions, but overall there's not actually a set trait you want to be using for every single game possible. So for example, Reaping Flames is a very nice major essence. I said this earlier, it works very nice with Deathbolt because it just allows you to get like 180k damage out within 2 spells, so it's really ridiculous when it comes to that, and it's very nice. But also, you know, major essences which are really nice right now, you can use, let me see here, Conflict and Strife, just so you can get versatility increase. Now it has been nerfed, you no longer, as I'm aware, get double the versatility increase. It's actually reduced half of that, so you get half the versatility increase when you're in a stun rather than the full amount. So it actually works okay still. Time will tell where this whether this will be good or not, but at the moment I still think it's decent. I just think the versatility increase from Conflict and Strife and the baseline PvP talent you get from it is just so good. The fact that you can literally get Endless Affliction here for free is just so worthwhile, and I would actually, if you think you're going to die, I'd play it. Also, I think Vision of Perfection can be good. However, if you don't have high haste like I do, I have 41% haste, and even then, I feel like Vision of Perfection doesn't proc as much anymore. So I just feel like if you want to go with this, you need to have a load of haste. 41% is probably enough, but if you can get higher, it's going to work better. And this is just going to allow you to obviously gain more haste and gain nice versatility increase. And just every time you set up a go, you have the chance to actually get your Dark Glare out for free. But don't forget, guys, if you have dots on the target and your Dark Glare pops out, he can have a chance to like break CC as well. I mean, your dots are going to break CC anyway, but don't forget your dots are going to be actually extended every time you have your Dark Glare out. So I don't know, if your dot's about to fall on one target, for example, and you want to put them into a fear, and you're looking at the dots because they're going to go off, and you're just about to cast fear, and then your Dark Glare pops out, you're not going to be able to get that fear anymore because the duration is going to increase. So all depends if you want to take that risk, but it is a very good, you know, trait nonetheless to use. Well, essence, sorry. There's some also good ones you can use. I mean, Crucible of Flame is very nice if you in 2v2 arena, especially if you want the extra healing. If you just want to go full survival build, then as mentioned earlier, Phantom Singularity, Mortal Coil, Siphon Life with the Crucible of Flame, I'd say Concentrated Flame there. Just really nice because you can get a load of healing out from it, and it just has a chance, obviously, you know, sometimes when you use it, it has a chance to heal with your teammates as well, so it's just really nice to use. But overall, the best major essences, I would say, is Breath of the Dying, Vision of Perfection, then I would also go with Conflict and Strife, and Crucible of Flame. So it all depends what you're going against. If I have to break it down for you guys, if you're going against something that can kill you, like really quickly in a stun, Conflict and Strife is your go-to. If you're on 2v2 arena, most of the time you just want to try burst the enemy down, so Breath of the Dying is going to work a little bit better. Vision of Perfection, if you want to drag the games out a little bit longer, maybe you're against like an Ellie Sham and a Shadow Priest or something, that might help, but Reaping Flames might be your go-to. And in 2v2 arena, Crucible of Flame, if you're against, like, I don't know, teams that can kill you really fast, Crucible of Flame might allow you to just get away a little bit quicker, heal yourself up, and just, you know, be a little bit better for you. Talking about the minor ones though, Iris is very nice for the haste increase. Haste is your best stat, so I just feel like haste is your go-to, so having Iris just allows you to have a load of haste. Also going with Conflict and Strife here, if you're not playing at major, then minor is very nice to have it. Now, like I said, it has been nerfed in PvP, so only time will tell whether this is actually going to be good as a minor trait. You might actually want to swap Lucid Dreams out for Conflict and Strife, because obviously Conflict and Strife has been nerfed, Lucid Dreams hasn't, so you might actually get more versatility and healing out from Lucid Dreams than you would when compared to Conflict and Strife. You can always run both of them, but all the time I run Vision of Perfection, especially in 3s, as my minor, because I feel that having the Dark Glare at 2.3 minute cooldown from a 3 minute cooldown, as I'm aware, is just so much better. Let me check that for you guys. Yeah, so on baseline, it's a 3 minute cooldown, so I just feel like being able to reduce that is actually really helpful. In 2s, there might be situations where you want to actually replace that. Have Crucible of Flame Miner just so you can flame people a lot easier and do more damage, could work. If you're going to single target build, Condensed Life Force also, so you can get the 3% increase in damage. It's also nice, but overall, if I break it down, the best minor ones are probably Iris, Conflict and Strife, Vision of Perfection, Breath of the Dying, Crucible of Flame, and Lucid Dreams. I would go with them, to be honest, if I was you guys. Condensed Life Force is okay, but I wouldn't go on my way to use it, and I do like Blood of the Enemy, but only for PvE. But guys, now I will move on to my stat priority. It's very, very simple. So as a Warlock, what you want to be doing is having haste as your main stat. So if you can, try and get around like 40 and above haste. The more haste you have, the better. But say if you have like 70% haste, it actually might not be that beneficial, because I don't know if there's a cap to haste at the moment, so you might not want to be going above like 60%. You can obviously experiment yourself and try it, but I'm not sure if there's a cutoff point like versatility has, for example. So I wouldn't recommend going too high with your haste. And then the secondary stat, in my opinion, is mastery. So haste, mastery, then versatility, then critical strike, in my opinion. Now, there's loads of people who might disagree with this. They might say versatility is actually your main stat or your secondary stat. Now, the reason to why I think mastery is a little bit better than versatility is because what mastery does for affliction is it boosts the damage of all your dots. So it allows your dots to deal more damage. The more haste you have, the more damage your dots are going to deal, the more damage you're going to deal to the target, therefore winning the game a lot faster. If versatility, what this does is increases your damage by however much percent you have, and also decreases the damage taken by half of that. So versatility, obviously decent, don't get me wrong, but I have a few, I don't know what to say. Like, basically, as a Warlock, you have so much survivability right now. I just feel like stacking versatility is not needed, because we have Soul Leech, we literally have Demon Skin, we have Mortal Coil, Siphon Life, Phantom Singularity. Like, there's so much going on. Even Resounding Protection, if you use it in on your traits, there's so much going on that you can literally just survive in stuns and everything. So I just feel like, and you've got Demon Armor, so versatility is obviously good to have, don't get me wrong. The more Versa you have, the more damage you're going to deal, and it's so nice. But I just think haste, mastery, Versa, then crit would be ideal. If you have like under 10% Verse or 10% Verse and above, I think that's a sweet spot for a Warlock. Now guys, talking about corruption, at the moment I'm only at 33 corruption. It all depends what you want to go. Now, I personally think the main corruption you want to have as an Affliction Warlock is haste. So if you can get your hands on these haste amps that increase your haste from all sources by 12%, then you're set for an Affliction Warlock. If you can get all of these pieces on your gear, then you're set to go, and you're literally going to have best in slot gear. Now, the more gear you have with haste and the more amplifications you have, the more you're going to get from it. So for example, right now I have a 12% increase in haste. I also have a 9% increase in haste. I have a 1,275 increase in haste, but that's a proc. And then I have another 1,275 increase in haste, and that is also a proc. So at the moment, I'm actually going to get more value with these pieces on than I would with like a 6%, as I'm aware, because these procs here are going to get boosted a lot. However, you're probably thinking, Xrathis, why would I want the amplification rather than the proc chance to get the haste? Now, the reason why I don't want to stack loads of haste procs is because, one, the corruption is so much higher than the amplification. It's 35 corruption for an increase in your haste by 1,275, and with the 12% it's only 20 corruption. So having 2 of these corruptions here brings you up to 70 corruption. Literally, you can afford 3 of these 12% haste increase for less than 2 of these haste increase. So I feel like if you have 12% increase in haste on all your gear, it's going to work a lot better as well, because they stack. So what I mean by this is, if you have all haste gear, you enchanted quick navigation, because that gives you haste. You also enchanted haste on your gear. You gemmed haste as well. That's going to increase the haste from all sources gained. So the ideal situation would be to have 12% on every single piece of gear. I also have a Expedient here, a 6% one, so I can put that on my gear quite soon once I upgrade my cloak a little bit more. But overall, you want to be going all of haste on your gear just so you can get the maximum amount of dot damage out and the more procs you can get. So it's really, really nice. Obviously, these haste work for everything, so it's just going to boost your haste from everything, like all sources. When you burst, if you have this Titan Shard trinket, gains 1600 haste. It should gain a lot more. Just works out so nice. So haste is obviously your best stat and the best corruption you can go. Now, if you want to survive a little bit more, I'd recommend probably all haste on your gear. But if you have room for another corruption, then I'd probably get a versatility one. Now, people are probably wondering, Xrathis, I see loads of people doing Gushing Wounds right now. Is that good? Gushing Wounds is good, but I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. I just think haste is just a little bit better because you can get more damage out and it just works better as Affliction Lock, in my opinion. But guys, I'm going to jump straight onto the rotation now, so I shall see you when we get there. Alright guys, so the rotation is actually straightforward. So this is going to be the target dummy here for us. So what you do is you pop your Agony in, you pop your Corruption. That will usually get a Reaping Flame proc, so you pop that immediately. What you can then do is pop your Dark Soul Misery, 5 Unstable Afflictions, 5 Phantom Singularity, Dark Glare into a Death Bolt, and then all you need to do is spam Shadow Bolt until you get 50 stacks of Drain Life. And then every time your Reaping Flames is glowing, use that all the time, and it's just rinse and repeat. So make sure your dots don't fall off on the target, and you just rinse and repeat that all the time. So it's very, very straightforward, waiting on your stacks to hit 50, and you just keep going until it does. Now I'll show you again in case you missed that. So what you do, Agony, Corruption, pop your Dark Soul. If this Reaping Flame procs, always use it first. Then you do 5 Unstable Afflictions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Phantom Singularity, into a Dark Glare, into a Death Bolt, spam your Shadow Bolts until you hit 50 stacks, you can Reaping Flames every time it comes up, and then you use your Drain Life, and then you rinse and repeat. So it's very, very straightforward, and you know, your damage breakdown will probably be similar to mine if I can bring it up here. Grimold's Sacrifice. Oh no, it's because I'm in combat, it's not showing for some reason. I don't understand that sometimes. Can we keep on this one, please? Thank you. So your damage breakdown should be a little bit like mine. Unstable Affliction will probably be your top, and then Grimold's Sacrifice, and then probably Corruption, then Agony. So it's not too terrible when it comes to that. So it's quite nice. You just want to be making sure you use your Drain Life when you hit 50 stacks. So one more time in case you missed it. Agony, Corruption, Reaping Flames will usually proc, to be honest. Use that. Then what you do is you pop your Dark Soul. Mine's coming up on cooldown now, so I just use it now. 5 Unstable Afflictions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Phantom Singularity. You pop your Dark Glare, which increases your dots. You Dark Soul, Reaping Flames, and then easy. Shadow Bolt until you hit 50 stacks. And then just keep repeating until your dots fall off. Well, until your Unstable Affliction like wears out, and then you reapply them. So very, very easy. Always though, I can't stress this enough, you're playing Reaping Flames Major, use your Reaping Flames every time it glows. But guys, sometimes you might want to hold Dark Glare separate from your bursts, just so if they dispel your dots early, you can actually get a better setup, but all depends on what you want to do. Guys, I completely forgot to talk about races in today's guide, so I do apologise for that. So I'm going to try and break down the top 2 races on Horde and Alliance for you guys, just to make it easier when deciding what class to play for a Warlock. So in my opinion, on Alliance side, I think that the strongest Warlock at the moment is probably Human. Now, Human is very good because you have your racial, which is every man for himself, so you can actually get out of certain crowd control effects, And like I mentioned earlier, you can actually play Relentless, so the duration of incoming CC is reduced by 20%, so it's actually really nice. They have a trinket and they also have a Relentless which they can play into, so that's actually really good to be a human, because you can actually have a better increase in PvP. You just have a better chance because you can actually play Relentless with no problem whatsoever. And there might be some situations where you want to use your Gladiator's Medallion, but overall I think it's actually a solid choice. Now the reason why I play Warlock is because of my gnome racial here, and because I just like the look of gnomes in general. Now Escape Artist allows me to get out of any crowd control, any sort of immobilization effect, anything that can slow my character down. I will be able to pop Escape Artist, and this will actually allow me to get out of the slow. So for example, if a Retribution Paladin uses slow on me, or like a warrior uses hamstring, or just anyone who can slow me down, I can actually use Escape Artist and get out of this. So Frost Novas from mages, for example, is actually really useful. And then an honourable mention I'd say is probably Dwarf. Dwarfs are actually good because they have their stone skin, which allows you to take less damage. So if you want a survivability build, I actually think Dwarf could be actually really nice. So I think the top 3, but mainly the top 2, is definitely human and gnomes, in no particular order. I think they're both very good in certain situations. I wouldn't say human's better than gnome, and I wouldn't say gnome's better than human. It all depends on what you're facing and what situation you're in, but it definitely, top 3 I'd say are gnomes, humans and dwarfs. On Horde side, I would say that orcs are very good. Their spell power you get from their racial is just absolutely insane, especially if you play Destro, but this is Affliction Lock Guide. It just allows you to get dots out really fast and deal a lot more damage, so I actually really like their racial. Also, I feel that Trolls can actually be quite decent for their racial, because you can get your spells out a lot quicker, because you get a load of haste. So Trolls are actually very nice when it comes to Warlocks and PvP, because you can literally mount people down, get a load of haste, and just spread your dots that much faster. And I think that if you're on Horde side, I definitely would recommend Orc or Troll for a Warlock. Now Undeads are really good too. They're kind of like humans. You could actually play Relentless if you wanted to, because you can use the racial to get out of like charms and stuff, which is nice. You can use it to get out of other CC and immobilization effects, which is really good. I just feel like the top 3 on Horde side would definitely be Orc, Undead and Troll. Those 3 races at the moment are actually really good, but I do think on Alliance and Horde side in general that Orc does top the icing on the cake, as they say. I just think that Orc's probably the best go-to Affliction Warlock, race for Horde side, and then on Ally it's probably tied for Gnome and a human in my opinion. But yeah, that's it for races. But that was a huge rundown on Affliction Warlock. I really do hope you enjoyed it. It was definitely a long one today, but I tried my best to include everything possible with Warlock at the moment in regards to BFA Arena. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and I've been Xrathis. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like, comment down below if you have any questions whatsoever, let me know. Been playing Warlock since the start of BC, always has been my main. I'm not going to stop anytime soon, and I just really hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions, like I said, let me know in the comments down below. I answer every question, so I will try my best. And guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I'm going to be posting more guides, so stay tuned for that. I've been Xrathis. I'll catch you in the next one. So, peace!